Sometimes nobody, but they see it. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our this conversation I'm going to have with Eddie Hypolite. I'm looking forward to the conversation, and we were talking before, so I stopped so that we could carry on the conversation here because prepare for this to be really a profound discussion. If you don't follow Eddie on Instagram, you should because of just everything that happens over there. So thank you, Eddie. I know this is very late for you. Thank you for
Yeah,
joining.
not too late. I
Not
don't
too
want
late.
to. I don't want to appear like it's way past my bedtime. You
It's
know.
not. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but it's 8 in the evening. Yeah,
It's
I'm in
18.
Australia. In case anybody's wondering what's he talking about, I'm in
Yeah.
Australia, so it's 8:20 in the evening.
Yeah.
And so it's nice. It's nice.
So we met at West Indies College, now
That's
NCU,
right. We met on the hill. We
on the
met on the
hill
hill.
all those years ago.
Yeah. Now
You know,
NCU.
now NCU, yes, I'm
It
sure
took me a while to get used to it. Did it take you a while to get used to it?
it did. I still say West Indies College. It did. It did take me a while.
Yeah, man.
Well, but I'm really happy that you decide to join this conversation around healthy relationships. And I know that this is a conversation that I think
Mhm,
I think most of what you do is about
mhm.
relationships, but some of the time it's about relationship with self, not
Yeah, yeah,
necessarily
yeah.
how to be. And though you don't use these words, how to be your best self, but I think what you do is
Mhm.
personal development, kind of deep
Yeah,
introspective
yeah,
work for people
yeah,
to do.
yeah, yeah. I think most of my work is about um renewing the mind,
Yeah.
being comfortable with the uncomfortable self, about self-development, about self-honesty.
Mm,
Um, because of my faith background, so much of what I've done from day one has been driven and influenced by the words of Paul to the church in Rome, where it says, "Don't be conformed to the culture, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." And so,
yes.
so much of the work that I've done, whether within the work of ministry, gospel ministry, and then specifically within as an educational consultant and as a life development consultant, a motivational teacher, has been around the idea of, all right, how do we renew our thinking? Because if we
Mm.
renew our thinking, then our behavior will follow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
your behavior follows. I remember when we used to deal with dealing with and I suppose it's come through again in England, sitting on so many committees that would be talking about how do we get the guns out of and the knives out of the hands of these
Mm,
kids. And my constant answer was, no, not how do we get it out of their hands? How do we get it out of their heads?
mm,
The
mm,
guns and
mm,
the knives are in their hands because the guns and the knives are in their heads. How do we get it
mhm.
out of their heads? Because if we can get it out of their heads, it's going to disappear from their hand.
It
So I
will.
think most of the work that I've done, all of the work that I've done has always been driven by the idea of renewing of the mind. Um, so yeah, that's where I find myself.
And it's really good work. So as I was saying, and I post this on LinkedIn and on Facebook this week, I was listening to your audio on Spotify, the four
Mhm.
questions, and I listened to the intro and I listened to question one, and I'm like, yeah, this is really good. This is really good. I didn't stop and do journaling, but then
Mm.
question two really hit me. You
Yeah,
said, "How are you?" And I'm like,
yeah,
okay, so he's asked, and then you asked the question again, and
yeah,
that really shifted something in me. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
nobody asked me how are you in
yeah,
the light of what you do, Joanna.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I felt like you were asking me personally that question. So I
Mhm.
took my journal up and
Yeah.
I answered the question,
Mm, mm.
and it was just such a moving moment. Just so if you've not listened to the four questions over on Spotify, you should go listen to that.
It's interesting you say that, Joanna. I was in Western Australia just recently. I've been working down there for about 2 months, and I was working at a clinic with a group of nurses, and I was working in the vaccination space, but I got an opportunity to just run one of my resilience workshops
Mm,
for they had on a Monday they would do a half day, close the clinic for all the nurses, everybody, all the staff. And so I did.
The audio is chipped out. I'm not sure why. Can you hear me? Can you
Sorry,
hear
yeah,
me?
yeah, yeah. And I asked
Okay,
I just hit the mute button. I just
right,
realized,
right.
and I asked the question, "How are you?" And afterwards, at least three of the nurses came and said, "This is the first time in 2 years that anyone has asked me how I'm doing.
Mm,
Just no one has asked me how I'm doing." Others came and said, "This is the first time that I've kind of stopped. You forced me to like stop and just admit I'm not doing good.
mm,
I'm actually not doing well at the moment, you know." And so, yeah, those who like yourself and myself who spend our time being consumed from,
mm.
we're not poured into, we're consumed from, you
Yes.
know. And so that's why I said in part two, in question two, that my me work has to be as important as my you work.
Yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
I don't make self-care my first care, and that's not self-care to the exclusion of you, but
No,
that is self-care to the empowerment of me so that I can help you,
I
you
love
know.
that. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah, my
Self-care
me
to
work
them.
has to be as important as my you work.
Indeed, it has, and sometimes we don't stop to think. I think, how am I in relation to being a mom and a wife,
Mm,
and but not how am I in relation to the work that I do?
yeah,
How are you
yeah,
doing, Joanna, in relation
yeah,
to the work that I do? I know how to
yeah.
protect my peace. I know how to protect my space. I don't allow
Mhm,
too many things in so that I can be
mhm.
available.
Yeah,
But I've never asked myself that in
yeah,
how many years I've done this job. Never asked
yeah,
myself.
yeah. Like, girl, how you doing?
Yeah, never, never. But I think I'll do it regularly now.
And I think as well, you know, it's an important question. I think it's important to for us as well, because I struggle with the same thing. I struggle with the same thing. I think
Mm,
it's important for us to explore why you don't think you can ask yourself how you're doing. You know what I mean?
mm,
Why don't you think you're worthy of? And no, I don't even think it's the idea of being worthy of the question. Why don't you think that that is an important question for you? You know what
yeah.
I mean? I think
Yes.
that is it. Why don't you think that's an important question for you? Because you know it's an important question for everybody that you work with.
That's
Yeah,
right. Yes, I ask
yeah,
them.
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
ask them all the time. And
yeah.
even as I think about the women that we serve, I think sometimes perhaps they don't ask themselves that question either. And maybe you
No,
should
no.
stop and ask yourself that as you
Yeah.
listen, you're
Mm,
here live and listening to the replay.
mm,
Mothers, women that are healing, the focus tend to be on the children or just anything else, but just to stop and
mm,
ask, how are you? We
mm.
often don't do that. The pandemic forced
No.
us to stop, but I don't
Oh.
know if we still ask that
Mm,
question.
mm, mm. And I think what the pandemic did was the pandemic forced us into a different type of survival mode, because
Yeah,
now we're stuck in the house, we're stuck with the kids, we're
yeah.
stuck without work, or we're stuck working from home, and and we've had to rearrange our lives. So we
Mm.
still haven't taken time to ask, like, you okay? You're like, how you doing?
Yeah, 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 yeah. We go into a new survival response
Mm,
to
mm,
just get
mm.
through and to cope and to manage. And practice was busy during the pandemic. We were extremely busy, mental health
I could
professionals, but
imagine. I could imagine. Yeah,
very busy. But I didn't ask myself about me during that time
yeah,
either. Like,
yeah.
how are you doing with 7 hour days and
Mm,
3 kids and all
yeah.
the rest of it? So
Yeah,
really, really thank you for that,
yeah. Well, I'm
for the
glad. I'm
work,
glad
the
that
work
it
that you do.
resonated. Yeah, thank
It
you.
did, and so much of the work that you do resonates with what we do and what we're trying to achieve. Because even when I read "Doing Life from Here," that's the title of your book, doing
Oh,
doing
living
life,
from here.
living
Living
from
from
here.
here. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
absolutely love it because again, that forces you to think about, so where
yeah,
am I living from?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Where is here? It's
Yeah,
not a
where is
physical
the here that I'm
location.
living from?
Yeah,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
is the
It
here?
doesn't matter how you got here, you're here. But how do you
Yeah.
live from here? Yeah,
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 yes. And
yeah,
and sometimes in healing, that's an issue because we don't want to be here.
yeah,
And so we either live in the past or in the future, and the
mhm,
cognitive
yeah,
distortions that come as a result of that. But when
yeah,
I'm forced to sit with, I am here, so how do I live from this place? That's
yeah,
a difficult thing to be with.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's difficult. It's scary. It's disconcerting.
Yeah.
But if you're there, it's unavoidable.
That's it.
Yeah, once you're there, it's like it really just becomes unavoidable. The
Yeah.
dealing with the question and dealing with the answer that comes. You know?
The answer. It's the answer that we're afraid of.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dealing with the answer. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we could have this conversation a lot because I absolutely love it. But I want us to, that was just an introduction to Eddie
Yeah.
and to his work. And now we're going to go into relationships, healthy
Mhm.
relationships. That's the series that we're doing. And I wanted to talk to men like yourself,
Mhm.
who perhaps other men will hear about, like, what does that look like? So
Mhm.
let me give an example. Last night, I love to watch this documentary series, Black Love, and I let
Mhm.
my husband watch it with me, and we watched it, and we were talking about the conversation as it comes.
Yeah.
I was saying, so what do you think was the do you think we have any unresolved conflicts? Do you think we have anything unresolved? And we both
Mhm.
thought about it and thought, no, but because we've had to have some really tough discussions over the
Mhm.
years. So we talked
Mhm.
about one conversation that could potentially break us. It could have.
Oh, that's
It
it.
was unresolved for years until one day the Holy Spirit fixed it and told us both some truth.
Wow.
So when we think about healthy relationships and men, why is it such a challenge for men to open up, to talk, to want to be drawn into these difficult conversations, or um, go to therapy that would make a relationship a healthy place for both them and for the women that they marry?
We're not taught emotional intelligence. Men are not taught emotional intelligence. Men, they grow around. We're not taught emotional intelligence, and we're not taught one key aspect of emotional intelligence for men, that allowing yourself to be vulnerable is not weakness. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable is strength. It's strength. It's not a sign that you um it's not a sign that you are um weak. It's just a sign that you do need help.
Yeah.
And we're not taught the importance of emotional intelligence. We're not taught the importance of being vulnerable. We're not
Mm,
taught the importance of accountability. Um, uh, we don't grow up around it by and large. My I never grew up around it with my father. Well, I never grew up with my father. My father left when I was 5, never came home again. So we
mm,
was raised by our mother, and our mother did her best to instill a type of emotional intelligence within us. You
mm,
know, the importance of honesty, the importance. Her mantra: charity begins at home, love
mhm,
begins
mm,
here. You know,
mm,
um, but mom's raising 5 children on her own.
mm.
There's only
Hard.
so much. There's some
Yeah.
only so much mom can do,
Yeah.
um, and so we're not taught any type of like emotional intelligence, and so that I think that is the beginning place
Mm,
for why men struggle in that way. I think
mm,
that's the beginning space of not knowing how to manage disappointment, not knowing how to manage loss, not knowing how to manage rejection, and still having a healthy sense of who you are. We learn it with time,
yeah.
and for some, that time just comes too late. For others,
Mm,
it comes it comes later, but it comes at such a massive cost.
the cost.
Yeah, it comes at such a massive cost, and important and unnecessary losses along the
Mm,
way.
mm,
And I think that is the main place that we start in order to address that question.
mm,
We have to start with men from young with emotional intelligence and the
mm,
importance of understanding our feelings, understanding how to deal. I think one of the things that really missed, and you don't know you miss something until you miss it.
Yeah.
And I realized that one of the things that I really missed not having my father, um, this I really got in like my late 30s and my 40s, was navigating what it means to be a Hippolyte male
Ah,
and dealing with the historical, the historical inherited behaviors and cultivated tendencies that are
right,
passed down through the DNA,
right.
you know what I mean? And I remember sitting with my mum when my mum turned 90, I turned 50 in the same year. And I
Mm.
was recording her life story. Spent 2 years doing it, finished it in her 90th year. And she began to tell me stories about my great grand uncle and my great grand auntie. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is us. You know what I mean? Just certain of the attitude and I was like, hey, you know, and telling me stories about certain of their behaviors and how they were, and realizing, oh my gosh, that's me. I've exhibited that for years, you know, and seeing that and just realizing and not understanding that that was the role of my father. That is the role of a father, for the role of the father for their children. And you see that with your kids, Joe.
Oh,
Like
yes.
there was a time when the kids were younger and you were mad with them, and then you
Mm,
realize, oh gosh, I'm not
mm,
mad with you. I'm
mm.
mad with
That
the
is
me
me.
I'm seeing in you. Oh my
Mm.
god,
I don't like the me I see in you. Right,
yeah,
right,
like oh my gosh,
right.
that's me.
Yeah,
That's your mum.
yeah.
Yeah, you see it repeat itself. And
That's
you know,
it.
the role of the parents is to, you know, and I feel that that's what I missed with my dad, you know.
Mm,
And I've had to navigate that. And I've been able to pass that on now to my nephews because that same trait comes through. And you know what I mean? In
and you
their
see it.
relationships with the strength of their personality, the strength of their
Mm,
personality, the strength of their charisma, their engagement with males and females, that, you know, and actually the gift that it is and sometimes the curse that it can be.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And having conversations with them, and you know, and they would say, why is that? And I would ask them questions. Have you ever done such and such? Like, yeah. If you've ever been in a situation at this, and they're like, yeah, a bit, you know, and
That's such
so
a gift.
you know, yeah, and I think that's the only way we break cycles as well. That's
Mm,
the way we break cycles. We break generational curses. We put a full stop in something that's come down. You ain't gonna be able to stop everything. The DNA is
no,
mad. Nah.
that's it.
But
That's it.
you can at least like, all right, this one thing that's come through our family, this
Mm-hmm.
stops with me and goes no further with you,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And so I think, you know, that's my very long answer to your very short question.
Uh, but I
Um,
think it was such a good answer. There's so many things in it that we could pull out and talk about.
mm,
But I'm intrigued by you saying that I didn't know what it meant to be a Hippolyte male,
mm,
and then you understood what that meant. And I think
yeah,
for so many men, and we work with Christians, um,
mm,
and so many men use this forgiveness as a
mhm,
way that they think that will help them to fix it and move on. Like, I've
mhm,
forgiven my
mhm,
dad. We're adults now. I understood that he loved me, but he didn't know how. I've
mhm.
forgiven him. And they feel like that fixed it. And they don't know what it meant to be a male in their family line,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
the
yeah.
things that they've inherited, the things that they've passed on, the things
That's
that
very profound. Yeah,
the attitudes and behaviors that they
yeah,
took
yeah,
for
yeah,
granted, and they
yeah,
don't know that it's a
yeah,
part
yeah,
of
yeah,
what they inherit that they need to go
yeah,
change.
yeah. Just because you've fixed your relationship in relation to him, that doesn't mean you've fixed all of him that's in you.
Oh,
That, hey,
that,
yeah, yeah. Just because you fixed the relationship with between you and him, that don't mean you fixed everything about him that's in you. That
no,
is now a whole other work.
a whole other
Yeah,
world.
it's gonna come through. It's gonna come through, you know. And I think for men, I think we start from early.
Mm,
We start from early, And when I say from early, I'm talking about from young when they're coming through primary school. You know,
Mm,
we grab them from their primary school, because in
mm,
secondary school, adolescence kicks in. And
whole
they
different ball
have,
game.
it's a whole different ball game. And then forget about once they get to university, once they leave and they go on to college and they get to university. But if you can get them from primary school and be with them solid through primary school and through secondary school, you got them.
Mm-hmm,
You got
mm-hmm,
them.
mm-hmm.
I mean, they may act crazy and they may go off the rails, but they'll come back on. You know
They
what I
come
mean?
back on.
They'll come back on, because they're grounded, and you're enabling them. They may not have their fathers to find, but they can find significant males, mature, emotionally mature males, who'll be able to see certain traits in them and bend them away from it. You know what I mean? So
So,
that
so important. So important. So
so that
important.
the best them can grow. The best them
Yes.
can the best them can grow.
So get them early. And my elder, who I interviewed some weeks ago, he talks about doing that in a church setting. And I see
Mm,
them have the men. I have sons. I have a 15-year-old who
mm,
is growing fast, and a
mm.
12-year-old. And so we know the work of teaching, because you said men are not taught, and I'm thinking, who didn't teach them? Is it in the home, or our society, or school? Where weren't they taught?
I think they're let down on a lot of places. I think they're let down. I think they're sometimes not intentionally, they're unintentionally let down at home, because I'm 57, so I'm from the beating generation.
Mm,
They do good, beat them. They do
mm,
bad, beat them. You know what I mean?
mm,
They look good, beat them. They don't
mm.
look good, beat them.
Yeah,
Look at an A, beat them. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Not everything was licks, but but for that generation, there was no type of dealing with, I've sat down with fathers and who are my age, and we're just like, we could never beat our children the way we were beat.
Mm,
Like, these kids physically do not have the stamina to take them type of licks,
mm, mm.
and not to say that we won't give them a slap, but but we just realize at the same time we don't need to beat them. You just sit
Mm.
them down and just work it through their head. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
million other ways I can punish you that you would wish I would have beat you. You know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Yeah, there's other ways I can make your life uncomfortable, or if the relationship, you know what I mean? If the relationship is good between you and your kids, you can speak to them in a way, not in
yeah.
a derogatory way, or
No,
in a self-deprecate, not in a really dismissive way, but you could talk to them in a very heartfelt and disciplined way, that they feel it, they can see it, you know what I mean? And so I think in some spaces it's in the home. I think also, Joe, it's within church. I think it's let down that we deal with the ideal of what a man should be, and not the reality of what being.
not who the man is.
Yeah, we deal with just the ideal of what the man
Yeah,
should be, and not the
yeah.
reality of what the man is. The
That's
reality of what a man should be in his home. You know what I mean? When probably 50% of the men in our church are growing up with no men in the home.
not
They're growing up with just their moms. I'm like, bro,
listen,
like, come on, man. Stop with
listen.
that. The ideal is good, but
Very
let's
much
deal with the
so.
reality, and let's bend the ideal so that it meets the reality, and then push them back towards the ideal.
And when
Right?
I think about end it now, I think that's the work that we really need to do, the
Mm,
hard work that we really need to do in
yeah,
making the ideal fit reality, or just dealing with what is. Because
exactly,
you
exactly.
said something else, and I spoke on Sabbath Gone, and I talked about come see a man, and I talked about the woman at the well, and I said, why did she have 5 husbands?
Mhm.
Where did the brokenness happen early in life?
Yeah,
Because with the work that
yeah,
I
yeah,
do,
yeah,
I know something happened. Like,
yeah, yeah,
was
yeah.
was her father absent? And, you know, a father with 5 girls came to me and he said, thank you, because he said, I'm a father of daughters. And I need to know that, you know, and I heard this discussion yesterday where this guy said, my father wasn't there, but I heard other men talk about fathers who were present but were emotionally absent. And that's even more damaging. And I don't know which
Even
we
more
don't
damage.
you know, we don't measure pain, but what can a man do if his father was present but he was emotionally absent? Or even the man listening now knowing that he's emotionally absent. He's there but he's not there.
I think what that man can do is, first of all, that man has to sit down and think about the narrative that your father has grown up with that made him emotionally absent. He has grown up with a narrative that's created that within his space.
Mm-hmm.
Then the second question you have to think about is, am I going to be part 2 of that narrative? Because he is emotionally absent with me, does that mean now I have to be emotionally absent, number 1, with myself, and then number 2, with other people around me? Does it just naturally follow that I will be a reflection of that? Because while our parents or your father may not have grown up within that space that allowed him to process that, that doesn't mean that in the next generation you're growing up in a space that's not allowing you to process it. And the mere fact that you may be listening to a conversation like this, that is now your opportunity to process that. Am I now going to live out that narrative that he's living out, or am I going to create a new narrative?
Whole heap of truth to sit with. That's a whole heap of truth to sit with.
I'll tell you how it worked for me. About 2 months before I got married, Joe, I was having these private panic attacks. And the panic attack, no one knew about it. We're planning the wedding, everything's finished. I'm getting my suit made. The suit is hot, you know what I mean? Like, we're 2 months out from the wedding. And I was having these private panic attacks. And the panic attacks was around the fear that I was going to fail. I had convinced myself, Joe, that I was going to fail. And I was going to fail because it didn't dawn on me until 2 months before the wedding. I don't know what it is to be a husband. I've never seen it.
You've never seen it?
I've never seen it. My dad left when I was 5, and mommy never brought another man into the house. I've never seen my mother with another man.
And 2 months 2 months before that hit you.
2 months, it hit me like, I don't know what it means to be a father. I don't know what it means to be a provider. I don't know what it means to be a husband. I'm going to fail because I've never seen any of these things. And this is the deep thought that hit me. And it was God. God spoke to me and God said, Eddie, I know you never saw any of those things, but what did you deserve to see? And that was the question that came, Joe. What did you deserve to see? And I remember just putting this list of all the things that I felt I deserved to see from a father. And God said to me, okay, marry the girl and I'll teach you how to do it. I will send men around you that will model it for you. Wow. I will send couples around you that will model healthy relationships. I will even send couples that will model unhealthy relationships, so you know what to avoid.
You can see both.
But go and marry the girl. And next year we're 30 years. Next year we're 30 years married. Yeah, next year we're 30 years married. But the point is this, the deep teachable for me was this: just because it's come down from the generation, it doesn't mean it has to go on in my generation.
No.
Just because I didn't see it, it doesn't mean I can't be it. Just because I didn't see it, it doesn't mean that it, you know, and I think for men, that's an important lesson to learn. If you're listening to this now, just because you ain't seeing it, it doesn't mean that you can't experience it, or you can't do it, or you are not worthy of it, or it will never be, because it is something that can still be gifted to you. And the mere fact that you realize that it's missing, it's already trying to gift itself to you. It's already the thought alone is creating the context for it to now become a reality in your life. You know what I mean? A reality in your thinking, and then a reality in your lived experience.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say amen. I'm not even at church, but What you're saying requires so much honesty.
Oh,
So
now
much
that's the
honesty.
hard one. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That's the
Yeah.
hard one. It's self-honesty. Honesty
So
with
much
self.
self-honesty
Mm,
is
mm, mm,
required in
mm,
that moment to go, I never got these things. I don't know how to do this. I what's happening here?
mhm,
How do I get what I never had? How do I even
mhm,
know that I need it and not just put on a mask
mhm,
and pretend and go
mhm,
out there and act
mhm,
and try to make the best,
mhm,
do the best.
mhm,
And I suppose people are trying to do their best, but
mhm,
in not recognizing and acknowledging these things, the
mhm,
hurt is perpetrated, it's carried on, and you're
mhm.
hurting people who love you.
Yeah.
But it requires a lot. It requires a lot of honesty, and I see this play out often, day by day by day.
Mm, mm. And I've always said that one of the ways in which to um, empower your self-honesty and empower a culture of self-honesty around you is to be an accountable man. I've always
Yeah.
said that a man who is unaccountable is a weapon of mass destruction.
Ooh,
Weapon of all kind of mass
say some more
destruction.
about that. Who are you accountable to?
I am accountable. I have what I call an accountability council.
Mhm.
And it's accountability on certain levels. Um, People can ask me how I'm doing, and I'm like, oh yeah, man, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, yeah, good. Family. But I've got certain level of friends. Like when they ask me, Ed, how you doing? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm good. All right, nice, nice. So Ed, how you doing? Like, no, I'm good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I heard that the second time. Ed, how you doing? And I can't hide from them. You know what I mean? I've committed myself mentally, spiritually, and emotionally to not fobbing them off. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I've got friends who not everybody can ask me it, because sometimes people ask you how you're doing, but they don't really actually want to know how you're doing.
No,
You
no,
know what I
no,
mean? Or if they
no.
want to know, or if they do want to know, they don't want to know for the sake of helping. They want to know for the sake of knowing your business. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
um, or for the sake of leveraging it against you in worst case scenarios.
Hmm.
And then on another level, I've got one, two friends that I allow myself to be totally naked in front of.
Mm.
Like, yeah, there's no stone I won't allow to be unturned.
How did you get to that place? Because as a counselor, right, I sit right in this chair, and when a
Mm,
man comes to me, he's like this, right? He doesn't want to be there.
mm,
It takes us. We get there though. We get to the place where
mm,
they can become that. But I provide that space for them to do that in
mm,
therapy. It's their space. I make it safe
mm.
for them to be able to do that, and they do good work. But how do you get to that place? What did you have to do to be a man who is happy to make yourself that vulnerable with other men for the sake of growth? How did you get yourself to do that?
I think there's a part of me that's built that way.
Hmm.
There's a part of me that understands that I cannot grow unless I grow in community.
That's that part.
Yeah. So there's a part of me that needs, mommy used to love this hymn. My mum used to love this hymn. I need the prayers of the people I love.
I
You
need
know
the,
what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
need the prayers of the people I love. And so there's a part of me that cannot grow unless it's growing in community.
Hmm.
And so I think with the work that I do, um, with the calling that I have on my life, and with the pressures that it brings, I cannot afford to be I cannot afford to be an emotional island with no harbor and no
Mm.
one can dock. I cannot afford to be an emotional harbor. You're gonna like this one. I cannot afford to be an emotional harbor, an emotional island with no harbor and only reefs around it.
No,
You know what I
you
mean?
can crash.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or that people just crash trying to
Yeah,
crash trying to get close to me.
you
Like,
crash.
no, no,
Yeah,
no. Yeah,
yeah.
people just crash and then in the end, people are like, nah, don't bother with that one. There. You
No,
get
we're not
close to that
using that
one, you're
one.
gonna crash. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
yeah.
so like, I think and what it is over the period of, over my journey, I have, you know, you filter relationships, and you
Mm-hmm.
realize actually there are some people that I can be naked with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember once, um, a friend of mine, and we're really close, and I asked him about another friend of a friend that he had, you know, and I said, "Listen, I've heard such and such about this person. Is it real? Is it true?" He said, "No, no, man, that could never be." I said, "Like, what? Are you swearing for them?" Like, "No, no, yeah, yeah, man, that could never happen." Then I asked him this question, Joe. I said, "Brethren, is he as open and honest with you as you are with me and I am with you? Is he that open and honest with you?" And he thought about it for a while. Then he was like, "Actually, no, he isn't." I said, "Well, then don't swear for him then." You can't swear for that. You know what I mean? Yeah. If he's not open and honest, because he allows me to see him naked and
Yeah.
I allow him to see me naked. But
Yeah.
this guy doesn't do that. I'm like, no, well, you can't swear for that person. And so, like, I think as life has gone on, I've found those people, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
I think as a man, you just have to do that. You have to not be afraid to find layers to yourself. You may not be able to know how to, you may not be, you may not know how to navigate those deeper layers of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can get a community of trust around
That's
you,
it. That's it.
in that community of trust, that community of trust will enable you to build an elevator that you can go down.
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
it.
That you
That's
won't be
it.
afraid to go down. And you know, and sometimes for it's taken me a long time to do that. Like I said, I'm 57 years old now, and so like
Mm-hmm.
that's been a journey.
It's a
That's been a
journey.
journey. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a journey. But if you can
Yeah.
learn that lesson young, and you know, with the young guys that I mentor, you know, the ones who come to me for mentoring and they're in their late 20s and their 30s, and they're becoming fathers and they're becoming husbands or lifelong partners, you know, I share that and I'm like, learn it young, learn this
Mm-hmm.
lesson young. Because I wish I
Mm-hmm.
would have learned this lesson in my 30s. You know what I
Mm.
mean? I
Yeah.
had to wait until I was like in my late 40s, you know, and then going into my 50s and like, I really wish I had this in my 30s, man. I would have
Yeah.
saved myself a lot of pain, you know.
Yes.
I would have
Yes.
saved myself a lot of pain, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, I think that's how it's been for me. I realized that doing the work that I do, and then just living as a man, you just, you know, you flying with a broken wing if
Mm.
you don't allow yourself the strength of vulnerability, if you don't allow yourself the importance of accountability, um, if you don't allow yourself honest community, and community that's going to be honest with you, and community
Yeah.
that's going to tell you the truth, and you know that the truth from them is brutally true, but they love you to death, man. They will burn down countries for you. You know what I mean? So there ain't nothing that they are telling you that they're trying to tell you to hurt you. They're like, nah, they love you to death. They want to see you operate at your optimal. You know what I mean? And you have to you have to cherish that.
You have
You
to
have to
chart it.
cherish that.
It's a beautiful thing. I mean, I was going to ask you, what would you say to a man, but you kind of answer it. Don't fly with a broken wing. And
Mm,
the way you don't fly with a broken wing is find community where you can have honest, where you can have vulnerability, where you can be vulnerable, where you can
mm,
be accountable, and where it's an honest community.
mm,
It's people that's
mm,
going to tell you about yourself.
mm.
And so be prepared for people to tell you about yourself. So the layers that
Yeah,
are there can be, you can access it, and you can be a safe harbor
yeah,
for
yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Nobody
man.
coming in to crash. You can
Yeah,
be
no
a
one's
you
gonna come in and crash. No one's gonna crash around you. You ain't nothing but pure reefs. You know what I mean? Now, you may have a lot of reefs around you, and there's just a slim little place where ships can come in, and you know, because that's about your boundaries. But you
yes,
ain't just
yes.
pure reef. You know what I mean? Unless you're pure reef and people land by helicopter. But then that's I don't even know. I don't even know. I don't even know how to work that illustration. I don't
I
even know how
don't
to work that metaphor.
I'm trying to figure it, because I live near the sea, right? And there is fish guard where the ships, where the boats come in, and the
Yeah.
ferries. And I'm thinking, no, there's no way. People are just going to crash.
Yeah.
People are
Yeah.
just going to crash.
Yeah.
So, and that's the word. I know men struggle. I I know men struggle with
Mm,
vulnerability. I was gonna say more than women. I don't know, because I think sometimes
mm,
people think women share deeply, but I don't think. I think women talk. We don't always talk deeply. We don't always
mm,
have these kind of safe
mm,
communities where we can be honest. Lots of women are in hiding just as much as men are in hiding. I
mm,
feel that.
mm,
Um, that's why I do groups and that's why I do retreats, because it starts
mm.
that work of community and vulnerability in a
Yeah, yeah,
safe space so that they can go
yeah.
carry it. They can go carry it on in other relationships.
Sure, sure.
But I mean, we can go on because I absolutely love talking to you. I love listening to you, and I love the wisdom that you have for men. You said some things, and I see my husband do this where he has mentors, and they
Mm,
have been a blessing for him and
mm,
for us. And
mhm,
you said you mentor men, and I was going to
mhm,
ask, what can a man do? Find a mentor, somebody
mhm.
who is honest with you, somebody who can help you understand what it is to
Mm,
be a safe,
mm,
healthy male.
mhm.
And we talked about a lot about honesty, because you have to come to the place where you realize that you're not a safe,
Yeah,
healthy male, and
yeah,
you don't
yeah,
know how to be a safe, healthy male.
yeah. Mhm.
And that's a really good place to come to. That might be difficult and uncomfortable, but it's a first place of growth to say, I'm
Mhm.
not safe and I'm not healthy.
Yeah, yeah.
And but I want to.
It's a difficult place to come to. And, I have men who seek me out and, they either come to me for professional mentoring. Um, they come to me for just a short period of, and we'll journey together for like 6 weeks. Um, or they come and they're like, I want to journey with you. And for me, the principle has always been, if you want me to mentor you, you have to ask me to mentor you. And it's not because that I feel like I'm enough. You know what I mean? It's not because I feel like I'm enough or my chest.
Translate that for people who don't understand what.
Oh, when I say it's not me that I'm full of myself. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
because I'm full of myself. It's that a mentoring relationship, number one, is going to flow both ways. But in a mentoring relationship, I am going to speak honesty to you.
Hmm.
And I don't want you turning around and throwing that back in my face. Like, hold on, what are you asking me them kind of question for? It's getting a bit personal, isn't it? That's why you have to ask me to mentor you, because you have to give me permission to step inside of your emotional and mental comfort zone. At the moment,
Mm.
I'm standing out, but you have to give me permission to step inside of it. Now, I am not going to walk with heavy feet around. You know what I mean? I am not going every time I see you, going to be just dredging up. But there are going to be times when I'm gonna have to speak to you, or we may do something and I may carry you somewhere, or I may be around, I may have you with me when I'm around my people. You know what I mean? And it may expose things in you when you're around my people. And you have to give me permission to do that.
Mm.
And I think it's important as men, um, that we have mentors.
Yeah.
I have mentors that are older than me. I have mentors that are my peers. I actually have mentors that are younger than me, believe it or not. You know
Mm.
what I mean? And but the ground where we all are is level. Yeah, the
I
ground
love
where
that.
we all are is level. I have people that I look up to, and I have people that look up to me, but the ground where we all stand is level. Yeah,
Level.
and I think that is where we are living our best and most empowered life.
Mm.
When we,
Yeah.
I said it in a post this week that we are just all conduits and channels. We're just all conduits and channels of blessing. So the way you've been blessed and been a channel for blessings and lessons, you have to pass that on and be a
Yeah.
conduit and a channel for somebody else.
That's it.
And I think men are beginning to understand that more, It's interesting. I don't know if you've ever been to if your husband has been to a men's conference and he's come
Many
back
years ago.
and you've asked him, how was the conference? And he's like, it was good. What did you talk about? Oh, we had enough conversation.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Like my wife will go to the color conference here in Hillsong's color conference. She will take notes, come back, give it to me. Now Ria's of the age, she goes to their mom, so I'm getting it in stereo. From the both of them. But I've been to men's conferences, and men will sit there and we'll have discussion parts, and there will always be at least 5 men who say, I didn't even want to come to this thing, but my wife bought the ticket and said you must go. And like I've been sitting here for 2 hours thinking to myself, I needed this 4 years ago. Like, why has it taken me so long to come to one of these and I think men are beginning to understand that, and men are beginning to seek out those weekends. Men are beginning to seek out those retreats. Men are beginning to seek out those spaces in which they can be in the company of men and be healthy and be vulnerable and be open. King Jehoshaphat is one of my greatest stories of the power of vulnerability. 2 Chronicles 20. He's in the midst of an invasion. He calls the whole nation together, and the king prays. And at the end of the king's prayer, he says this: we are powerless and we are clueless, but our eyes are on you. The 2 things a man never wants to be is powerless
and clueless,
with no clue for how to get out. But the caveat was, but our eyes are on you. And that was the strength of his vulnerability. Strength of his vulnerability was admitting, but knowing that while we may not have the answer, we know that there is an answer.
There is an answer.
Yeah, there's an answer outside of myself.
Yeah.
There's an answer outside of myself. So like, I think for men, the lesson is like, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to find a good mentor. Don't be afraid to be a good mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Where can men find you? Where can people find you that want to
find me? You can find me at my website. My website is EYRlimited.com. Yeah, EYRlimited.com. Across social media, I am just, as my name is there, Eddie Hypolite. I have a free book called 4 Questions. And I have an audio book that I've brought out, and the audio book is free as well. I've just created a spin-off series
of the 4 questions.
Of the 4 questions. So it's 13 podcasts, 13 episodes, just dealing with the first question.
Oh, wow. Who am I?
Yeah, so it's 13, like who am
I? Identity question.
Yeah, just taking it deeper and different aspects of that. So
I look forward to that.
That's going to be released soon. That one won't be free. But I'll send you a tester and you let me know what you think. I did a series one. I'll send it to you as soon as we're done.
Yeah.
And you take a listen and let me know your thoughts. Let me know.
I look forward to it. Let me
know your thoughts. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming and having this conversation.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm encouraging you guys to, men I know some men watch our channel and listen to our podcast. Women, send it to your brothers and your husbands, and find Eddie online. Get mentoring if you know you need it. I get messages all the time. All the time I get messages. Can you see my husband? Can you see my friend? Men who have come and have gotten help, but not everybody want to go to counseling because vulnerability. But maybe mentoring might work for you. I think we all need something. We all need someone, because we can't know what we don't know on our
Hmm.
own. We
Hmm.
need
That's right.
somebody to reflect that back to us.
That's right. That's right.
Um,
You know what? I'm actually going to be in the UK next month.
in August.
I'm going to be in the UK in August. The last week in August, first 2 weeks in September.
We should
You
do
know what I mean?
something.
Listen, I'm sitting here thinking maybe we hold an evening for men.
Yeah, we should do something. We
Maybe
should
we
do
hold an
something.
evening for men. We'll talk offline. We'll
Yes,
talk
yes,
offline.
let's talk
We'll
about
talk
it.
offline.
Let's do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Let's
Yeah, I'm
talk
going to
about
be
this.
here. I'm going to be around.
Oh, it'd be good
I
to
think it'll
see
be
you.
great. Mm.
Let's
Yeah,
do
for real.
something. Let's
Yeah,
log
yeah,
off
yeah.
and talk about it.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah. Definitely.
My head is already spinning because I know people to send it directly to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So all right
yeah,
then.
yeah.
Lovely to talk to you, Eddie.
And you,
Thank you
and
everyone for
you
joining
too,
us.
and you
Joyce
too.
was saying great conversation, very much needed. Thank you, Joyce, and thank you for all who stayed with us. And for those who are watching the replay, please share this video with the people who you know will benefit. We appreciate
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Bye.